Welcome to another edition of the Hoop Scoop. I'm Jarret Johnson, and I have more good news, yet more good news on the recruiting trail for the Red Raiders, specifically the basketball program, who picked up another huge transfer addition in Mac McClung, a 6'2" combo guard from Georgetown. There's been a lot of conversation about, does Texas Tech really need McClung? Is he the type of player that the Red Raiders want in terms of his personality? He's definitely one of those kind of in-your-face kind of guys, and is very has a lot of highlight. He's a highlight reel kind of guy. He has an explosive vertical dunk. I think most people, when they first hear McClung, think about his explosive vertical, which has been, I think, reported as 48 inches, which has allowed him to provide highlight reel after highlight reel. And then they talk about, like I said, his attitude. Not necessarily, like for me, I don't have a problem with it. I like confident players. I like players who aren't afraid to talk smack, as long as they can back it up. And McClung appears to be, in my opinion, one of those guys. In terms of what kind of coach you would want to kind of rein in that player and get the most out of him, I can't think of too many others I would choose before Chris Beard at Texas Tech. So let's kind of dive into a little bit more of what they're getting in him. Let's look at his stats. I want to make sure I get this right. Last season he averaged 15.7 points, 3.1 rebounds, 2.4 assists, and 1.4 steals per game, while shooting 39.4% from the field and 80% from the free throw line. He also struggled from the three-point line. Now, and this is another thing that I think some people that are saying, well, do you want to bring in this guy who, doesn't have a very good shooting percentage? And especially, McClung is being seen as a replacement for Davide Moretti, who formally announced he was foregoing his senior season and signing with Olimpio Milano in the EuroLeague. Just the day before, McClung announced his commitment to the Red Raiders. So that's something people are wondering about. McClung isn't the efficient shooter that Moretti was, and that's true. But on the other hand, he brings a dynamic athleticism that Moretti didn't have. Now, Moretti was athletic, or is athletic. He is crafty. He is capable of creating his own shot, but not at the rate, and he certainly is not the terror on the break that McClung is. So, and McClung brings that kind of alpha dog mentality that I think at times was missing last season from the Red Raiders. I think if you're on InsideTheRedRaiders.com, you've seen me post several times that even more than missing size in the paint and on the glass, I felt like the fact that Tech didn't have a guy who could just take over like they had in years past with Keenan Evans in 2018-19, or 2017-18, and then Jarret Culver in 2018-19 on that Final Four run, where you could just, and even Matt Mooney to a degree. So, in those years, you could just give the ball to one of those guys, and, they came through with a bucket more times than not for you. And you had tremendous success, the best success in the school's history, in no small part due to those players and those abilities. I think that's a huge part of basketball, is that there's a lot of times where it comes down to just one or two possessions, and you need that guy who can just say, get out of my way, I'm going to get us a hoop. So, and I think that was missing to some degree, or to a large degree last season. So McClung could be a guy, I think, who can do that for you. If you look at his highlights, there's several instances where he made buzzer beaters. So he's not afraid of the big moment. And so, you have that with him. Another reason I think that he might be more efficient at Texas Tech is, you look at Chris Beard and his staff, the way they develop players. I mentioned Keenan Evans. His shot-making ability, and a lot of credit goes to Keenan, there is no doubt. But his shot-making ability improved dramatically under Chris Beard and his staff. And then Jarret Culver, his jump from year one to year two was pretty dramatic as well. He was a good player, one of the best freshmen in the Big 12, but he went from that to being the Big 12 Player of the Year and an All-American, number 6 draft pick, in the NBA draft. So I think part of that was his ability as a shot maker, the work he put into it with the Texas Tech staff. So I think, if you're going to go to Texas Tech, if you're going to play for Chris Beard, you're going to have to bring that work ethic. So I think that's going to help McClung. And then I think just the fact that, quite honestly, though Georgetown had a good team last year, the roster that Texas Tech is going to produce for next season, which is, most prognosticators are saying top 15, top 10. one of the best teams in the Big 12 and maybe capable of making another Final Four run. So that talent he's going to have around him is going to allow him to get more one-on-one opportunities. I think it's also going to open him up as a facilitator, and I think is going to lead to a lot of success. Now, speaking of next year, McClung, he's a traditional transfer, so the rule is that he's supposed to sit out a season to satisfy NCAA transfer requirements, but all the chatter is that he's going to apply for a waiver, and the talk is that he has a good shot at it. Now, we heard that with Joel and Tomway, and we saw how that played out. It didn't happen. So for me, I'm not going to sit here and say, I think he's going to get a waiver, because I am done. I'm out of the business of predicting in any way what the NCAA is going to do, because I can't figure it out. It's arbitrary. So I'm going to leave that alone. He under the rules as it states right now, he would sit out for a season and have 2 seasons of eligibility remaining. Either way, he has 2 seasons of eligibility remaining. He's already tested NBA waters before withdrawing his name, so you know that that's a possibility that if he does get that waiver, if he is eligible next year, if he has a great season, he might forego his final season of eligibility and go to the NBA anyway. So there's a lot still up in the air with Mac, but there is no doubt in my mind that this was a great addition for Texas Tech. I'm excited. I can't wait to go see him play at the USA. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be a dunk fest with him and some of the athletes he has on the roster. And, once again, Chris Beard shows that the first thing he said when he was hired was that he's in the talent acquisition business, and most of his efforts are going to go to that end. Well, he's put a lot of effort in talent development, X's and O's and all that, but man, he may be the best in terms of a closer as a recruiter. And, once again, he has put together quite the roster for the foreseeable future at Texas Tech, and it's going to be a sight to behold come November when they open next season. So, as expected, if things go right in terms of the coronavirus. So with that, thank you for watching, and until next time.